We're looking first of all at the issue of the economy because so much revolves around it. And don't forget that President Tinubu, while being the presidential candidate, that is of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, had talked about how he would turn the economy around. And he specifically talked about the fiscal and monetary policies, how that they would require house cleaning. How much of cleaning we're doing already is what's part of what we have to talk about here on the program this morning. I'm joined by Comrade Brimo Haruna, is a public affairs commentator. Brimo, it's a privilege to always have you on the program here.
Thank you very much. Always my pleasure.
Great. So I was thinking maybe we should start with not just the economy, but let's look at where the president met the economy and where we are today. Of course, I have seen people who would say the man just got into office on the 29th of May. Yeah. Is it not too early to be doing some very critical assessments? But then, May till now, this is the third month in office. It's quite a long time, isn't it?
Of course, like almost like a quarter.
That's right.
Yeah. I think the Tinubu administration is fastened on the trajectory of renewed hope. As a political mantra, and that is not going to be achieved if the macroeconomic indices, of which that is his statutory responsibility economically, as a president, he is to galvanize the macroeconomics so that the nation can move forward without the aggregation of the activities collectively of the Nigeria across the 36 states. Economically, the nation cannot move forward. What we have, the bill actually is beyond the federal government. Because in economics, we have what is called micro and macro. Macro is the responsibility of the federal government. Macro, the MI part of it, is the responsibility of the collective 36 state and 774 local governments. It's only to drive fiscal and monetary concerns or policies to now galvanize every other activity that is happening across the components of the Nigerian state. A dysfunctioning state, a non-functioning component state of Nigeria is one of the biggest challenges we have today. We have 36 states and 774 local governments. We don't have up to 5. We cannot point even 4 states that are economically viable. Then everybody now fixates its attention on the federal government. Imagine having even 10 states that are economically viable in Nigeria. Lagos, for example. If what Lagos has economically is what Rivers has, what Maiduguri from the northeast, what maybe Delta, based on the allocation abilities, and you talk of Anambra and Imo or Enugu, just like 10 states, if they are microeconomically stand or strong, then every policy from the federal government will be like giving directive, providing leadership. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, everything rests in the hands of the president. The state government or the local government is as if they have been excused from governance in Nigeria.
How did you get to that point?
Yes, because we have missed it from the social contract. I keep talking about social contract. You cannot be asking for good governance without knowledge of social contract. Social contract is the contract that exists between the government and the governed.
That's right.
So when you get that right, you know the quality of people that you have voted for across the strata. Starting from your councillor. We have the local economies. We have the local government economies. We have the village economies. These are the micro units. There are firms inside there. At the macro, we not talk of industrialization. But at the micro level, the smaller unit level, you talk of firms, small firms, SMEs and whatever. A situation whereby you now need to create a national agency to drive SME, like SMEDA, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria. You now need a national direction to develop SMEs across 774 local government and 36 states. Which other states in Nigeria actually have a functioning SME program or blueprint? A whole lot, things like this now make a presidency or being a president of Nigeria economically a huge task on the president. You understand? Because ordinarily, if all these are working, we will not be talking about dollar. We have dollarized the economy. Tinubu is supposed to create fiscal policy to provide macroeconomic direction. Then the fiscal policy through budgetary allocation, the CBN will now create those monetary frameworks that will actualize and implement them across board. Not taking cognizance in aggregating the gains for the micro unit, the state economies we are talking about now, the local government economies we are talking about now. But in this situation, almost the state economies are as good as dead.
I want to take it back to Monday evening when acting CBN Governor Fola Shonubi visited the president, and when he came out of addressing pressmen, and he did talk about that the president had also expressed his concerns about the forex, the state of forex, as far as the economy is concerned right now. I mean, at that level, the president himself is concerned. So that gives you an idea how much more concerned Nigerians, of course, the business community
of course,
are. What are those concerns specifically?
The concerns for we are having a manufacturing sector that is dwindling at the moment. Normally we are import-based economy.
That's right.
Even the local manufacturer relies on good dollars to import what is called economic goods or capital goods. What is economic goods? Goods that you need for further production. Machineries, you don't manufacture them here. You understand? You need some critical raw materials to drive your local production here. So in the same way, you still need dollars. And you see manufacturing companies either are inflating their prices, the Nigeria building, some are trying to fold up, some are readjusting, some are doing backward integration and just trying to design some new business model to survive.
To get ahead.
Exactly, to get ahead because of the scarcity of, because they need this dollar to import their, as I said, economic goods. Which, you understand? So when that is happening, the manufacturing index will be reducing. With a negative manufacturing index, you are practically telling these local manufacturers to lay off workers. That is some that want to also still continue in the business. They need to restructure. Restructuring in this regard means cutting costs. You understand? This is not about cost control now. It's about deliberate measure to cut costs, lay off workers, stop some lines of production. You understand? Instead of expansion, we are stopping some lines of production. Which again worsens the wage of the labor market. Of course, and you now begin to increase the unemployment percentage. So it is of more concern to the president because the dollar we are earning is less than our needs for foreign items. Nigeria have penchant for foreign goods. If importation was probably narrow to importation of relatable goods that we need for further production, machinery, technology, and all that. But a situation whereby you have an economy where somebody will just sit down and say, I want to import toothpick into the economy. Or handkerchiefs. You know, it got to a point in this country at one time or the other, rumor had it that they were importing, you have to spend dollar to import promiscuity into this country. You know, that is how much. Even in our social gathering, you see people going to marriage or burial ceremony, people spraying dollars. You just dollarize the old ways. You now make an average woman that is selling corn on the street is not telling you that dollar don't out. That is why she is increasing the price of corn. You understand? And in the same way, the same dollar is what the foreign importers is looking for. So what Buhari did, he said, let's bring about the list of our import. After going through the list, he said, let's do what is called import substitution policy, whereby you have to ban those items we can produce here locally. You don't need dollar to grow rice here. You don't need dollar to grow corn. You don't need dollar to grow cassava. You understand? At a point, we were importing egusi into this country. You need dollar to bring egusi to Nigeria when you have egusi farm here in Nigeria. These are the things, the critical decisions that Buhari needed to take to save dollars.
President Tinubu?
President Buhari, you understand? Needed to take to save money because his own time was even more critical. We were at economic cliffhanger. Because we have less than $21 billion in our reserve. Which even got further depleted. We got further depleted. We practically inherited recession. 32 states that couldn't pay, that were bankrupt. They could not even manage their allocation to pay.
And the federal government had to send lifeline to them.
Exactly, budget support fund, bailouts from the windfall, the recalculated Paris Club refund and all that.
That's right.
You know, just to rejig the entire economy. You understand? And it took Buhari like almost 1 or 2 years to really stabilize. Because by the time he put those ban on the importation of rice and letting us grow rice in Nigeria, it will take like 9 to 1 year or 2 months to farm rice and get. Then the rice price was like 50,000. Everybody was complaining. You know, all those things. We were having stagflation because the economy, scarcity of resources and money chasing few goods. There was no availability of goods. There was money. You are scarce of resources and you have much money. You understand? So we have this stagflation. The same thing is right now happening, unfortunately. The President Tinubu administration was supposed to consolidate on some of the fundamental gains. Across the infrastructure, we had the rail revolution that Buhari did successfully. Right. We had some major critical infrastructure roads like the second Niger Bridge, the Lagos-Ibadan Express, the Wato Bridge in Benue State, the Abuja-Kano. These were road infrastructure that can really drive the economy one way or the other, even the remodeling of major airports across Nigeria. Right now, yes, the removal of subsidy, which was a decision that was needed, has further increased the prices because almost everything you need the vehicles to bring your farm produce. That is inflation on its own with the removal of subsidy. So a whole lot, the consumers are suffering, the consumer index, the propensity to consume is reducing because low money in the hand and you have a high price of goods and services out there as a result of subsidy removal. That is one side. But the other way, we are saving money for government. Government needed to remove that subsidy because government had no money to sustain such fraudulent scheme called subsidy. You understand? In the other way around. But the major question is, we need to ask ourselves, are we ready to give this presidency the time to use the gains from subsidy removal to recalibrate the economy?
Former President Buhari also asked for time and he got 8 years. Did he maximize that period?
Absolutely, because when I'm doing when I do performance appraisal, I look at where you were, what you did, and what you are, where you are. You do composite analysis. I just gave you from security to economics. We were off the radar. Today we are talking of bandits in the northwest. In the year, a few years ago, we were not talking of for 2010 to 2015. Nobody was talking of. We were facing real war from terrorists. Terrorists were in charge of 37 local governments in Nigeria across 3 to 4 states in the northeast. They were in charge. Terrorists had their headquarters in Goza, in this country. And Goza, they succeeded in disbanding the Mopo headquarters. Where you have the Mopo headquarters in Nigeria is Goza. They succeeded in removing them, chasing them away, and installing, making that place the head of their caliphate. We forget so soon, in this federal capital territory, we have no business going out unnecessarily. Some roads in this federal capital were not motorable. They were barricaded. So you cannot say the 8 years of Buhari, you can't write them off. Totally, you cannot write them off. The issue actually was, did he really translate all the policies well? Buhari is a human being, just like any other person. You understand? I will always give Buhari a 60, more than 50. Based on what he met. Nobody wanted to talk about what he met. We just want to assess him based on what he was doing.
They also say he met dollar at something in the neighborhood of 166, 60 something naira. And then he left it way worse, far worse than that. Is that a candid assessment?
What regulates what buffer your dollar? What gives strength to your dollar? Buhari made an ingenious effort not to float. Imagine Buhari had floated dollar at that time. We will not be here talking because there was no base. The base upon you have a balance of payment deficit as a country. You don't have balance of trade. What is balance of trade? The volume, the comparison between the volume of trade your country deal with the foreign countries, international communities. Right. When you compare to what you import, what you give to the world, and what the world gives to you. Nigeria what we give to the world in production or productivity is not up to 30%. We always import more. We get from the other part of the world, from the international community more. So we are always on deficit, balance of trade. So how do you now make payments for those things, those trade deficit? You also enter balance of payment deficit because your reserve, which is supposed to be the shock absorber, which is supposed to be your collateral guarantee for your international activity, your international business, international trade, your reserve is depleted. Your reserve is not even up to.
Recently, we allowed the naira to float under the same government.
That is what I'm
exactly. We are reversing that.
No. There's no reversal.
Okay, so but was that a step in the right direction? Because it seems to be becoming counterproductive as it stands right.
You remember when the president took over, he said we are going to liberalize the foreign exchange.
That's right.
I had my own reservations. But
about that decision?
Of course, from that decision. But when an economy is initiated, an economic policy is initiated, you give it like 3 to 6 months to weigh it, because there was no way you could have removed subsidy and not liberalize the forex market.
That's right.
You understand? Because it was not going to sustain. But the ripple effect is what we are trying to curb now, so that the real market force will stabilize it. For example, like what happened yesterday in the NFPC deal.
The $3 billion deal.
The $3 billion deal was a game changer again. That was that was the first time. Most people will be taking it as a loan. It's not a loan to the federal government. That is not going to increase our foreign debt. It's not a crude oil petroleum swap deal. It's a pure payment in advance for a particular percentage of crude oil that the NFPC is going to sell in the future. It's like you are paying me for something I'm going to supply in future. And the NFPC in return will not pay federal government royalties and taxes on petroleum in future also. You understand? We're talking of future administration.
So that's a blessing for economy.
Exactly. For example, for the first time, NFPC as a who is now having a commercial status, a public corporation now translated to a limited company to attain commercial status so that it can be going into deal on its own. NFPC went to Afrexim Bank.
That's right.
To negotiate for that, to straighten its own house, to help Nigeria cannot produce its own crude, where it's not paying Nigeria royalty in taxes in advance also. The bank is giving you money. That money is not guaranteed tied to, you are going to supply us crude. But on the crude that you are going to sell, a particular percentage of crude. If I'm producing 100%, okay, a 30% of crude that I'm going to produce within so period, the profit from it, I'm going to use it to set off this facility. It's not a guaranteed facility that is tied to any aspect of Nigeria. And in the same time, I'm also paying the government of Nigeria in advance for royalties
and taxes
that will come up in future for this same transaction. So I'm getting the money for future to quickly mitigate a lot of fluctuation that is happening. And what does that mean? That means the federal government is earning more forest right now. Imagine getting 2 billion or 1.5 billion from that in form of royalties and whatever. Pump it into the central bank, who is our banker, the government banker. The central bank have enough dollars in his hands. Whoever come for dollar to import critical items, I repeat, critical items, will not have it. Then strengthen the naira. And when the naira is strengthened, what does that mean? The fuel price you are talking about will come down. Because we are not talking about the market forces. I
want us to talk about the issue of the CBN and foreign exchange, Brimo. Under former suspended CBN governor now, Governor Emefiele, we had seen several critical steps, decisions, and measures being taken in a bid to, if you like, have control of the forex markets. One of them was Aboki FX being banned because, according to the CBN at that time, Aboki FX was helping to engineer speculation in the forex segment of the market, and then that didn't work. As of today, you and I know better. That ban has been lifted by the CBN under the leadership of Mr. Solubi. We have also seen Mr. Solubi on Monday evening at the Villa addressing pressmen, telling them that, look, speculators have to be careful because by the time, according to him, all of the measures the government is putting in place come to fruition, they are going to be at a huge loss. For many people, that's more like a political statement because the speculators have always been there, and you don't want to make it look like you are warning the speculator because they know how to pull their strings and they know what they want to attain at the end. I'm only asking, does all of this answer the question of how to control our FX market? Because you don't just want speculators, you put the measures on the ground.
Okay, let me approach this from two angles. First, we talk of demand for money, theoretically.
Right.
Why do we need money? The motive behind needing money is three basic motives: transactional motive, precautionary motive, and speculative motive. You need, I just explained how people need dollar to do business, to bring things to Nigeria. Imagine if those things were made in Nigeria. You don't need dollar to bring it in. So you don't care about whatever happened in the forest. If you like, make naira become 1,000, 2,000 naira to 1,000.
It doesn't impact your
like in China, like in Russia, Indonesia, those countries. You see rupee. Rupee is about 1,500 rupee to $1. You know, 15,000 rupees to $1. But it doesn't stop the fact that the economy is bigger than Nigeria, is better than Nigeria, is more developed than Nigeria. Because transactionally, what they need, the demand for their money, they are doing it locally with their local currency. They don't need the dollar. So there's no pressure on the dollar. Even if they decide to float their currency, you don't have ripple effects. Then we now talk of precautionary in case. Let's have shock absorber.
Like a contingency.
A contingency. Let's have this. Let's have in accounting we have what's called contingency reserve. We now talk of speculative, which is now being hijacked because speculative always drive more in a liberalized market. When the policy now talk of liberalizing the forex market, the next thing you talk about is who are the players? Because everything in the liberalization is a form of capitalism. And everything, these are people that just sit down every day, they speculate. They drive speculation, they buy dollar and keep. Without of patriotism, that you don't need it. You need dollar for what you need. You want to use dollar to buy. But in Nigeria, people goes to buy dollar. I'm telling you why the CBN going to have to make that statement. That holding the dollar will not save anything. You just want to buy $10,000, $20,000, you keep it. Manipulating the entire process to create artificial scarcity so that you can sell and make gain without you being productive physically or being realistically doing something that will earn you money. You just see that, create pain for the people and make gain of it. Create pain for the government and make gain of it. You go to social media, you see people, they hold your dollar, don't bring it out. Is this cities real? Because we have dollarized the economy. But you never climb when they don't rely on the dollar, when you have innovation and creativity locally. Everything they need is being produced locally, almost everything they need. If you like, go and keep the dollar will die with you. The dollar will get old with you, will rust with you. So that is where the CBN governor was trying to, because we are floating the currency to support the subsidy that was removed. Because without floating it will still be hard for the marketers to get access to the dollar that is being controlled. Because before now, prior now, there was discriminatory forex regime. Whereby some people get this official rate at 4 or something. Some people who are the so-called cabals or economic buccaneers, they have their way with the central bank and they get this at official rates. And instead of them to go and use it to do the real business, they go and sell to the Aboki FS and Co. Who in turn will now begin to trade it to the independent petroleum marketers at 700 and something, 600 and something, 200 and something naira difference. And that man having that one to import, using that to import his petroleum, will now be having issues to compete with. So what Tinubu presidency is trying to do is to say, if it is 700, let it be 700 all round. Let me now drive fiscal measures to regime the system in a way that the market players in the market will be naturally reducing the prices of products. But the question is, are we a people that are ready to genuinely from our minds sincerely make this policy implementation process work? Because we sit down to initiate slack variable in the process, and because we are going to get what is called in management, we call it satisficing for selfish interest. So the CBN governor was quite right because we knew. Remember, the regulation does not mean you are not regulated. When you talk of free market forces does not mean you will not be called upon. The government is still watching you. What is the basis of it?
There are still frameworks.
Of course, there's nothing. I keep saying like nothing like absolutism. Call it free speech, free this, free that, free economy. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't mean that NNPC, somebody said NNPC, we said NNPC is now a private entity, a limited liability company. Why is NNPC doing this for government? I just laughed. I think it was the publication of Sahara Reporter. I just shake my head. Look at this. Look, just in the body. NNPC is just made to attain a commercial status. Imagine if all the public corporations in Nigeria have been made to attain commercial status when they cannot do this as just like private companies, whether it's water resources ministry. They will begin to provide water for you at home. You will not have need to go and be saying, I need to rent a house that has borehole. Do you know how many boreholes that are in Nigeria, which is even endangering our future life? We don't know where earthquake is going to happen, burying the ground up and down everywhere. If we have a working water resource or public corporation for water resources, let it have commercial status, let it drive this. Look at the communication, the same thing. We wanted Entel, the government arm of it, to also to have something like
which actually evolved from Nitel.
Nitel, exactly. Let them have commercial status, let them deal and play just like every other limited company. It does not mean the government does not have a say, because in the board, government will have a share, have a stake. The same thing we want to try to do in the power sector. You understand? Across all this, our problem has never been issue of policies. If we are embracing capitalism, if capitalism has worked in other climate, in other economy, why is it not working in Nigeria? Because we have people who does not have sincerity of purpose to drive the implementation.
Before we move to our second discussion, I just wanted to ask you this on the final notes. To what extent are multilateral institutions influencing our economy on whatever level, in whatever segment, especially the foreign exchange market?
To the extent of your dependence on them.
Are we not really dependent on them?
Of course, that is to say to the extent. It's part of the neocolonialism we are talking about. We are politically independent, but when we are economically dependent to multilateral institutions who are the Bretton institutions, the Goldman Sachs, you saw the CBN, they are owing them about $13 billion. For several years, we didn't even have access to the financial statement. Thank God it's out. We now know the position of central bank. We don't need to talk about that. We need to preserve our house. You understand?
That's right.
So we now begin to realize how we have outsourced our sovereignty economically to the wills and caprices of foreign institutions. You understand? So we cannot be economically dependent on these people because somebody is giving you a facility. He's also telling you how to use the facility. Remember, himself is looking at how he's going to make gain. And he's telling you that the best way. That is why when I learned or when I heard that Nigeria was going to be part of BRICS, I was very happy. BRICS was supposed to be a deviation from the World Bank and the IMF manipulation. When you are in BRICS, nobody tells you how to, the facility you are getting or whatever gain you are getting from it, nobody tells you how to utilize it. But the multilateral institution will give you facility. They will not monitor how it is implemented.
But they determine the projects.
They determine the projects, everything you can do a 5G video and everything sent to them. This is what you want to do, World Bank assisted project. Do you know how many World Bank assisted projects are about in Nigeria that have been paid by World Bank fully with our account debited as loans, but those projects are abandoned in Nigeria? But in the Belt and Road Initiative under the BRICS Commission, Belt and Road, the China and the Russia, when they are coming to your economy, they tell you what do you want. You calculate what you want in naira and kobo value or in the dollar value, and they come and give you what you want. They debit your account with the value. They give you the infrastructure. Do you understand?
So it becomes a win-win.
Of course, because like the railway. There was no way constructed by the Chinese or the remodeling of our international airport where the Chinese were to. They came in, we have the CCCE engineering company. The same bank of Nazi Bank of China will get a Chinese-owned firm. Remember, they are practicing in the community there. Almost all the firms, the government have stake in the corporations. So they come here, they deliver it to you. you standardize it. They even go as far as doing a whole lot of corporate social responsibility by building schools for you to attach to as gains from it, like the railway universities. The one you have in Daura, in Katsina, the one in Rivers State and all that, you know, these are all just to support as dash. But the truth is they believe that. And they still help you to run it, train you to make it work so that they can get their money back. That is the Belt and Road Initiative. But for the other multilateral institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, their own is just to give you money, give you framework on how to utilize it. And once you tell them you have utilized, they don't care because they just know that you have the oil, you have the resources, they are going to tie you. So they are not afraid of default. But the Chinese, they are not talking of you guaranteeing anything. They are just telling you that this is what you want. How do you want to pay it? We'll come
from the much that you know, I mean, as we wrap up now with our first discussion, are there any indications that Nigeria as an economy is tilting towards BRICS as a way from the West?
It's no longer indication. We are going there.
You mean the Tinubu government?
Whether the Tinubu government, because the relationship with the BRICS have already started. We had a former president Muhammad, who is a real, he's a frugal person, he's a frugal leader, and also a social. He believes in socialism one kind. He doesn't believe in this absolute capitalism or liberalism that we're trying to do. Because remember, Tinubu and Buhari have different ideology economically. You understand? So making it work is the issue. Whichever work is for the gains of Nigeria. But at the end of the day, you see the Buhari administration in some critical areas, some decisions that he took, it was 30 towards, it was all about China. At the point we were shouting that loans from China, you know. So it's with time, I believe that this government will also look in that direction because it's no longer negotiable for Africa. South Africa is really part of it. We are supposed to be there, not South Africa. The Brazil, the Russia, the India, China, and South Africa. Right. We were supposed to be there. So maybe we are going to be the BRICS as end to be part of it.
We'll see how that pans out. But quickly, we want to turn to our second discussion this morning, which centers on the appointment of new ministers. Now, obviously, you have seen that list. I mean, I'm sure you have inside knowledge of some of these elements. But quickly, would you say on any level that this team is just 100% suitable for the Renewed Hope agenda?
First of all, there is no team, management team or leadership team that's 100% suitable. But from my experience over the years and having understand what governance is more of leadership. That's right. Providing leadership anywhere you are, you know, and based on that, I would say it's 80% okay.
I'm asking that because you see people like senior lawyer Festus Keyamo, who of course had also been a part of the former government, previous government, serving as Minister of State for Labor and Employment. Now he has been assigned the portfolio of aviation and aerospace. And they were wondering how appropriate, how fitting or otherwise is that?
I just told you now that ministerial appointments or becoming the political head of ministries. Yes. I call it political appointment. They are political appointments.
So does that mean they should have requisite capacity?
The requisite capacity here is leadership capacity. Every other...
Even for a specialized field like aviation and aerospace.
I'm coming. There are some areas where you have every parastatal in your ministry has specialized persons or professionals or personnel driving it and manning it. In every ministry. Yours is to provide that leadership. So your capacity should be examined on leadership capacity. Do you have the leadership capacity to drive this? Where you now have, it's like, I just told you, it's an extension of, it's delegated power, delegated executive power.
But even at that, the president would not hire an engineer with 35 years of experience to become the AGF.
Remember, we will also be agitating that the AGF should be cut off.
The Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice.
Minister of Justice. You understand? So there are two different things.
But then you must have lawyers. You must have lawyers in those places.
There are some ministries,
right,
that you actually, like the health ministries, the finance ministry,
which must have a doctor, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
But you cannot put an engineer.
That's where I'm going. Even the health ministry, when you have the qualified personnel and doctors across all the parastatals, all they needed is the leadership. But the issue of the AGF is a different attorney general of the federation, who is supposed to be different from the Minister of Justice. But in Nigeria, here we'll be combining the two to have a lawyer or a sound lawyer or a judge or a former judge or whatever to fit in there. The Minister of Finance is another critical ministry that is always manned by somebody with requisite qualification and experience. If you look at our Minister of Finance, Wale Edu, he is more tended to the economy side, and it's also the coordinating minister of the economy. We saw that coming. You understand? Based on his experience, beyond his paper qualification, he's somebody that has experience that spans more than 30 years, if I'm not mistaken, seasoned experience, and has been with the president for years, helped him to rejuvenate the Lagos economy, galvanize a lot of things together, and created a blue economy in Lagos. And today, it's a reference point that an economy that have successfully, the only state economy in Nigeria that sustains succession, leadership succession for the past 24 years. That is the only state economy in Nigeria. Most other states. And if somebody like Wale Edu, among those that laid that foundation, then we need him for the Renew Hope agenda. And we look at another critical ministry. I think Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, where you also have seasoned persons there. You know, generally, I just see that when you have Fashola did well as Minister of Works
and Housing.
Exactly, he did well as Minister of Works. Tomorrow, do you know when a second Nigeria bill was conceived, was used to one of the bargaining tools used to end the Biafra War in between the Biafra War of 1967 to 1970? That we are from 1970 to date. It took a presidency to bring that more than 300 billion project. You understand? It takes an ingenious leader to undertake such. And if you've gone to Wato Bridge that is cutting across Nasarawa through not going through Makurdi ministry, you now realize what I'm talking about, that it's about leadership, sincerity of purpose. So the purpose is this: you have a leader who is sincere to drive that purpose. The purpose is renewed hope, making things better in sustaining the consolidating of the achievement of the last administration infrastructure. We put somebody there. In the aviation, at the point in this country, Stella Odua was the Minister of Aviation. What was it? He was removed as Minister of Finance in this country by the Obasanjo administration and replaced by Architect Nnamdi Usman as Minister of Finance. If you see, really, at times we need to look at things not just from this stringent angle. You know, let's give these people benefit of doubt to see how they prove their leadership capacity, how they bring their leadership capacity to bear in delivery. Because as a leader, you have a whole lot of persons around you manning the respective. So most of these ministries, up to 5, 7, 8, 10 professionals, seasoned professionals manning those parastatals. You understand? So the leadership we are going to bring is how you are able to utilize the human capacity that you have. Do you have the right human capacity that are manning, organized, that are within your ministry working for you? How are you going to harness their potentials to drive the Renew Hope mantra of Mr. President, whom has given you delegated executive power?
I want to talk to you lastly now before we're done.
And you have Mr. Wike.
Yes, I was going to talk about Wike. They are trusting him to be able to deliver in that regard. Is looking at what he had done while he was governor of River State for 8 years. But the FCT is a different terrain altogether. It's a developing city, and this is the Federal Capital Territory. So talk to me in 2 minutes. What you think? I mean, how you think it can replicate whatever you have to achieve in River State?
Wike is not new in the corridor of power. Right. Wike was that takes me back. Wike is a lawyer. And Wike was in Professor Rukaya Rufai was removed.
That's right.
He became a substantive minister of education. And we saw how Wike was weakening everywhere. And then he became a governor. And we saw what he did in Rivers State. And we are talking of Abuja is one of the fastest developing, infrastructural wise, developing federal capitals in Africa right now. Not just one of them is the fastest. And we are talking of a man they call Mr. Projects, being the minister of FCT. You will expect, what are you going to expect? Because the level is how do we take the FCT to the next level from where we are? We are building a metro train system that needs to be sustained. A metro train system, one of the, I think the first light train system network in West Africa, from Abuja to Church Gate. How do we do a whole lot in Abuja to take the infrastructural level to the next level? How do we galvanize the city together to build the economy, the education city? And we need somebody who has a revolutionary approach to doing things. You need somebody who much believe in necessary process than due process when you want to achieve goals. The difference between due process and necessary process. Wike is that man. We have somebody that we set deadlines and make sure leadership with deadlines. You will pay the contractor. You watch him on television. You will give check and tell the whole world and pay you Julius Berger XYZ for this construction of XYZ numbers of roads. Now somebody have to come here to pay you and our agreement of giving me the roads. If I can pay you during the rainy season, then you should do my. That's the revolutionary mindset and the Abuja master plan. Do you think why do we miss Rufai so much? It's somebody like that.
It turns out Rufai didn't make it to the list, by the way.
Everybody did not make it to the list, but the state is still available. You saw it there.
Right. I'm afraid
even the environment needs somebody that is also revolutionary.
I totally agree because
we are talking of desertification in the north. We're talking of the climate change issue. You don't need
flood and erosion
control. We don't need people with action. I would still like that at the end of the day, I would be happy to see Rufai in the government. Yeah.
All right, great. Comrade Haruna Brimo is the first commentator. Thank you for coming to help us straighten out some of these issues this morning on Global Morning. We're just going to take a quick break now, everyone. When we return, we'll take a look at headlines for you from across our national dailies, and that will be a full circle on the show this morning. Do stay with us. Thank you everyone for staying with us here on the program. We quickly want to take a look at the papers for you this morning. We're starting with the Daily Times with a picture on the front page of the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, and former First Lady Patience Jonathan there on the front page and hugging with a big smile on their faces. And it says, Tinubu names Wike. Okay, we're just going to take a look at that for you here. It says here, First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu and former First Lady Dame Patience Jonathan at the State House in Abuja. That story is from yesterday, but there's a story, there's a headline just above the nameplate of the Daily Times today. Again, it says Boko Haram hoist flag in Niger community. Recall that was where there had been a plane crash just 2 days ago. Days after NAF chopper, Governor Council Chair disagree on cause of crash. Military authorities now decimation. Okay, then it says Tinubu names Minister of Works, with a few writers there yet to name Minister of Petroleum, and some people are already saying, is it not possible that the president himself is the substantive Minister of Petroleum? We wait to see. Assigns finance to Edu, solid minerals to Alake, defense. MFLA to be arraigned today over alleged 6.9 billion naira export of coal being in North Central. Tinubu silent on Petroleum Ministry, assigns portfolio to cleared ministers. Capsized oil rig operating illegally on Nigerian waters since 2016, says Mimasa, that's the Seplat Minister of Solid Minerals Development. And then there's Nkiru Onyejocha, Minister of State, Labor and Employment. All right. Wike Umahi Edu get FCT Works Finance Ministries with several riders there. But then when you take a look at the right end of the Vanguard newspaper today, says Sanusi to Nigerians, don't allow president, governors intimidate you. Naira appreciates as NNPCL boosts forex supply with $3 billion. 63.84 trillion naira Nigerian crude oil was stolen in the last decade, that is in the last 10 years, over 63 trillion naira stolen. And then you're wondering what 63 trillion naira can do for a country like ours. When you look at healthcare system today, you look at the state of education, you look at the deficits in infrastructure, and then you look at social welfare programs, and then you look at power, you look at flood erosion control, you look at how we can mitigate the adverse impact of climate change, and then you probably begin to have some very clear thoughts as to how much of difference for the better, yes, for the better, that 63 trillion can do for a country like Nigeria. And then sadly you're hearing that that is what has been stolen, at least by some estimates, in the last 1 decade. Okay, let's take a look at the Tribune now, everyone. There are 3 headlines just above the nameplates of today's issue of the Tribune newspaper. The first one to the left, the top left of the Tribune newspaper on the front cover here, it says, let's see that for you. Niger crisis, ECOWAS military chiefs to meet in Ghana. We understand that meeting is scheduled for today with a possible follow-up tomorrow. The Masa says capsized drilling rig chartered by Seplat operating without approval since 2016. Nominations open for 2023 Obafemi Awolowo Leadership Prize with a picture of the late sage there. Naira gains, NNPCL gets $3 billion loan to stabilize currency. It says speculators lose as local currency fell. Dollar at I&E window, that's at import and export window. Exchanges are between 770 and 800. NNPC explains how $3 billion loan will reduce fuel price. And then you have a picture of 10 of those now appointed by the president and assigned portfolio as ministers as well. It says Edu, Finance, Fiber, Justice, Wiki, FCT, Marks, Kayamo, Aviation, Adelabu Power. It says Tinubu assigns portfolios, creates new ministries. Of course, we saw that PCL secures $3 billion loan to stabilize Naira. Said it's emergency crude payment loan to support Naira. That Afrexim Bank with headquarters in Cairo, Egypt is funding it. Reviews that loan will be repaid with crude oil at interest rate between 8 and 11%. Egypt will provide immediate disbursements to support FG's fiscal monetary policy reforms. Tinubu scraps Niger Delta Ministry, assigns portfolio to ministers designate. All right, Army Chief embarks reverse as Tinubu reforms lose steam. Okay, Marcus reverse as Tinubu reforms lose steam. We hope it gathers or regathers steam. Edu named Finance Minister, Wike gets FCT. Airlines squeezed on insurance maintenance over FX. All right, we understand that foreign exchange has been an issue, but then efforts are being made to address and tackle them. Naira gains trades at 910 to the dollar in parallel markets. Nigeria gets $3 billion from Afrexim Bank to fight Naira speculators. And of course, we all know Nigeria has got to win that fight, otherwise the Naira will continue to weaken against the United States dollar, which again puts our economy in a very, very bad shape. And that's how we call it a wrap on the show today. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm Uya Mofwegbe. Our broadcast continues here on Global Television. Enjoy the rest of your day.